All right, so let's talk about that now. So let's start with Lewis and then we'll get on to Max. So Lewis, Carl Davidson, Hamilton, this is how he attacks long corners of constant radius. Remember, when he was young, his father used to stand where the fastest go-karters were braking. He's like, if the cars are coming across, the go-karts are coming across this way, he would stand where they're braking and he would move 2 steps down and he would say, Lewis, you're going to brake here. So that was just Anthony Hamilton's little way of trying to find lap time. He didn't know any better, and that was what he taught his son. So it was like, yeah, Lewis was going to be a late breaker from that point onwards. Now, in these long corners of constant radius, Lewis does exactly that. He goes all in on the entries. So he brakes late, he brakes hard, he combines a lot, so brakes and turns at the same time. And his focus is to, make up all the time on the entry. Now, if anything happens in the mid corner, Lewis is more reactive driver. He'll react to a slide or open the steering wheel in the middle of the corner or balance the car, like come out of the brakes and then, think about what he needs to do with the steering. And he's just constantly, the car is just on a constant edge. The problem with that is though, you need to react to the slide and the slide is costly. Obviously, you're going to lose lap time with a slide. Now, Max is very different, like classic sim driver, right? Max will brake early in these types of corners. Don't confuse Max for being an early braker because when he's tearing down like Monza turn 1, he'll smash the brakes super late because it's different corner. But in these types of corners, Max will brake early, softly, start to initiate the steering and just wait a little bit. It's a long corner, remember. So he'll get an assessment of how much grip there is. Am I going to meet my rotation? Am I happy with the way things are going? Do I need to add a little bit more brake? When do I start adding more steering? Very slowly, very progressively. Max is very anticipatory in this part of the corner. And so he's just massaging the car into the corner and carrying entry speed in as well. But he's not going all in like Lewis with the late hard braking. He's like, I'll just wait and see. And as this corner unfolds, I'll suss it out. And as the grip changes during the race as well, like tires wear or grip level changes for whatever reason, then like wind, for example, then Max can adapt to that as well because he's got more time and more space in the middle of the corner to be able to manipulate. So he's a little bit more anticipatory, I'd say, and Lewis is more reactive. At this point, I'm not telling you like which is better or worse. It's just how they drive. I'll show you guys the picture actually. Let me bring it up on the screen. Give me a sec. It'll be this one. So actually, just before I do, I'll show you guys on the whiteboard where we are. So I'm just going to show you this corner. Sorry, let me get rid of all this. We're just going to focus on turn 13 here. Cool. So it's the long corner of constant radius, come out of turn 12 and so on. So with Lewis going all in and so on, and Max being manipulative and anticipatory, this is what we're looking at. Have a look at this. So just compare these two on the left-hand side, and then we'll compare the right-hand side. Have a look at this on the left-hand side. So Lewis is already at the curb or his apex very early on in the corner. So at this point, he'd be a fraction ahead of Max. You see what Max is doing? He's like left a little bit of space there. He's not fully like committed to the corner so much. He's still adding and winding on the steering in the middle of this corner. And so Max, like I say, with this space across here, I'm looking at this space here. The plan for Max is to absorb that later on. Whereas Lewis, like, he's already there and he's there with speed. Now, the thing with Lewis is he gets this like slides in the middle of these corners because he combines so much the brake and the steering. And then what happens, look, he has to open the steering in the middle of the corner to catch these micro slides, right? Whereas that will never happen with Max because he's so progressive with his steering. He goes from here to here and he can just raise the chips slowly on the table, add the steering, like add more, progressively load up the car. Whereas Lewis doesn't do that. Lewis goes all in and then has to catch a slide. So he's quicker to a point, but then whether or not he gets the slide. This is so insightful because this is why Lewis keeps asking for rear grip. And this is why Max keeps asking for front grip. They're totally different drivers. Now, when I say short corner driver, it's essentially V'ing. This is Max V'ing off the corner. And Max is asking a lot of the front tires in order to do this, like I say. And these are completely different driving styles, totally different. One on entry, one more patient, one more aggressive, one brakes harder and later, one brakes earlier and softer. One's more progressive with the steering wheel, doesn't combine so much. Like there's so much insight here. To be able to put these drivers in the same category as short corner is like saying Rafael Nadal's two-handed backhand is the same as Roger Federer's one-handed backhand. No, 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 mate, please. They're very distinct styles and they're totally different drivers. Lewis is very old school in this sense, and Max is very modern sim generation driver. So we could talk about this for hours, but yeah, I wanted to just set the table for you guys. That's how they drive. And now the problem with Lewis, right? He'll get the snap on the entry or the middle with the whole rear situation. With Max, though, where does he get his snaps? He gets his snaps on the exits when he goes to apply the throttle, right? So this is what you guys saw in the same corner in, was it 22? Someone in the chat will probably know better than me, but I think it was 2022. So the reason that this happens is because it can never happen to Max on the entry because he's very conservative. He just waits and sees what's going on, suss out the corner as we go. On the exit though, he's so patient that the minimum speed drops out of the car a little bit. That's very classic of the whole short corner thing. And then when the minimum speed drops out, he loses the downforce. He's actually accelerating from a lower speed and he doesn't have any downforce or grip from which to drive out of the corner. So that's where there's a case for something more geometric, something more conventional. Yeah, it's a longer way around, but keep the minimum speeds higher and then keep all the diffuser and everything working. So Max will have, if he is to have a problem, he will have it with exit grip because he's using all of the front grip. And then Lewis is totally the opposite. He'll have problems on entry to mid. On the exit, Lewis doesn't have a problem because he's maintained some active speed in the middle of the corner. Like I said before, you're going to hear like Max, Charles, Lewis are all short corner drivers, are all the same. Clearly, that's not the case, as you can see in front of you.